water and salt, the key to life and death. All life depends on keeping water in and salt out. It's true of the sea and it's true of the land. It's fundamental to an understanding of our survival on Earth. Whole societies have collapsed by ignoring that fact. In Mesopotamia, salt destroyed one of the great civilizations. Today, salt threatens most of the world's food-producing areas. It's one of the major ecological problems facing our planet. Nowhere is it more critical than in Australia. We have a very salty country. Much of it was once under the sea, and for millions of years, salt spray has blown in from the oceans. Far from the sea, in the inland, salt is destroying our most productive land. Our food and water supplies are facing collapse. It's not a natural process. The salt has always been there, tolerated by nature when left undisturbed. Our attempt to extract too much from this land has released the salt. And salt means certain death.
These are the warning signs for us, the signs that the other civilizations ignored. To hide our mistakes, we've condemned this place to death. And it's a short-term solution. It's like sweeping the dirt under the carpet. The problem doesn't go away. But for this place, it's the end. We could never restore this. And it was a beautiful place. How many more cemeteries can we afford?
This is the Murray River, not far from Renmark. I was born here. It's where I grew up. As a child, I thought the secure and abundant world around me would go on forever. How things change, and how quickly. I can't believe that this place, which survived for thousands of years, has been obliterated in my lifetime. I know that salt has done it, but I also know it's more than that. It's because we've never accepted Australia for what it is. A land of limited resources, finely balanced. The fact is, we have very little good land and precious little water. We are squandering both, and we are paying for it. This place has become a sewer for the dying irrigation farms just over the hill. Salt is killing our food supplies because of the way we have used our water. In Australia, water is our most precious resource. This is the driest continent on Earth. Yet ever since European man has been here, we have tried to fight that. We've always wanted to divert water from one place to another to speed up the settlement of the dry inland. The Great Dividing Range provides the only reliable supplies, and today the vast majority of us are still confined to the east coast, drawing our water from these mountains.
This great mountain range runs right along the east coast. It supplies the water for most of Australia's population. The problem is that 2/3 of our precious resource runs that way, to the closest coast. And that gave rise to the Australian dream of diverting that water to the west, to the inland.
The idea of turning our coastal rivers inland has obsessed Australians for generations. Grand schemes to green the outback. Bold visions, but foolhardy. And none take account of the fact that most of our soils are totally unsuitable for irrigation. But we have done it once. We turned the waters of the Snowy River into inland Australia.
Pure water, as pure as the day man first knelt here to drink. These are the headwaters of the mighty Snowy River. From here, it makes its way through arid inland Australia, through a maze of locks and weirs. The Snowy Mountain scheme was a magnificent feat of engineering, but the consequences of doing that were far from what anyone ever imagined.
This substance is more valuable to us than any mineral. The people who control it have enormous power. It was a political decision to use this water to populate the outback, to drought-proof Australia and create a breadbasket. A political masterstroke, it fulfilled all the ambitions of the time: growth, wealth, decentralisation. The waters of the Snowy River were funnelled into the Murray, and water was delivered dirt cheap to the fruit and vegetable farmers of Australia's new salad bowl. At the time, there was plenty of water to go around. Our population was small. One of the farmers who settled on the Murray was Jim Mason. The desert greened, and thousands of irrigation farmers came here with their families. They now provide 80% of Australia's fruit and vegetables. Jim Mason's life is deceptively peaceful. Some would say idyllic. But when Jim first settled near Mildura, few people had heard about the salt, and those who had did little about it.
A lot of people were pressing, even, say, 25 years ago, that there was a problem coming up, but people more or less just poked it down the side and didn't worry about it. What do you say? Stick your head in the ground and let it worry about itself. And this is what seems to have happened along this area. This has happened in other parts of the world, and they've had the same trouble and did nothing about it, and now they've turned into deserts. And this can happen if the Murray isn't treated with more respect than what it is being at the moment.
Jim Mason's land is booby-trapped. The political decision that brought irrigation to the Murray ignored one vital fact. Millions of years ago, this land was under the sea. Yet that didn't ring any alarm bells. They went ahead. That political decision still haunts Jim Mason. It will cost us very dearly. With computer technology, we can now see at a glance the extent of that ancient inland sea. When the sea rose, the low-lying parts of Australia were inundated, including the whole of the Murray Valley. As it retreated, it left behind millions of tons of salt.
Many of the soils of our great arid plains were laid down under the sea, and they still contain memories of their salty beginnings. Other soils have had a continuous rain of salt, dried sea spray blown in from the coast. And because our soils are so arid and it rarely rains out here, the salt is still in the soil, sitting close to the surface. We came to these soils to irrigate them. They were conveniently close to the few rivers that wound their way through the inland of Australia, and they were flat and easy to work. No one knew the problem that salt was going to cause. But we irrigated these lands, and in the short term, we made them very, very productive.
Half a million people now live out here, in 20 of the largest towns of the inland. And they are kept here by one thing: irrigation. It has been the only successful decentralisation of inland Australia. Take a perfect climate, endless land, and all you have to add is this: artificial rain. It all seemed too easy, and it was. There was, and still is, no national policy controlling the use of water. Instead, the states and a multitude of competing bodies all push their own parochial interests. No one has the power to monitor and control the overall effects of irrigation. Irrigation has always been publicly funded, heavily subsidised. Farmers have never paid the true cost of the water they use. Because it's cheap, and it's never been properly managed, water has been used carelessly. Too much has been used, and the excess water percolates down to the lower layers in the soils, reawakening the salt. We've made our irrigated land, our best land, our heartlands, saltier than the sea.
This water is extremely salty and very, very putrid. And it comes from irrigation farms just over the hill. We've fouled our precious water this way by applying much too much in irrigation. The excess water has soaked down through the soil, deep into the soil, collecting salt as it went. And as we continued to apply more and more irrigation water, the water table crept slowly to the surface, bringing salt with it and killing the plants we sought to grow. Our solution? To put in drains and pump it away, here into one of these great sumps. The water evaporates and leaves the salt behind. And salt is a killer. Almost nothing grows here. Save this one plant, a samphire. I expect to find this in mangrove swamps by the edge of the sea, but not here.
Millions of dollars are now being spent to pump salt-polluted water away from irrigated areas. These efforts are rarely coordinated. It's simply a matter of passing the effluent downstream for the next person to worry about. We are critically short of water and good land. It would be difficult to conceive a better way of destroying both. We might as well have covered this land with dioxin. Every year, the Murray now carries over 1 million tonnes of salt to the sea. The only new industry in our once fertile irrigation lands is salt harvesting. This salt is only good enough for industrial use. Ironically, it too is polluted by dust blown in from our eroded soils. Carting it away won't get rid of the problem. Salt harvesting is only possible in a few isolated places. Unless we act very quickly to stop the cause of the problem, most of our irrigated areas will become wastelands.
It's a gradual death. And this is the thing that you don't seem to sort of realise that everything's dying around you because it's so slow. But what opens your eyes the most, if you pull out a film that you've taken, say, a couple of 3 years before, or 5 years before, and you look on that film and in the background will have trees alive, and you look outside now and they're dead. I don't think people can be so naive to turn their backs on it for much longer without doing something very constructive about it. Once the Murray's gone, if the Murray disappears and is polluted, well, there's nothing left. I would say that along the Murray now it would be in the stage of being 30% dead in tree life and general environment. How in another 5 years, how much more dead it will be. It's not a thing that's going to happen, it's a thing that is happening right here, around us, and a lot of people are completely ignorant to the fact that they're contributing to it.
If ever I needed convincing, there's a place here that says it all to me. This is where I played as a child. My friends and I would come here and spend the long, lazy summer days swimming, fishing. There were always stacks of birds here. There were ducks. I remember finding my first spoonbill's nest not far from here. And we would swim about and listen to the call of the reed warbler in the reeds and try and find their nests, the beautiful little nests that would hang down between the reeds. And at the end of summer, that was the time we enjoyed the most because we came here to go yabbying. We'd bring our sticks and our chop bones that we bought from the butchers and catch yabbies, buckets of them, and we'd take them home and have a great feast. And that was always the end of the summer and the time we had to go back to school. But that's all gone. That's all changed. There's no reeds and there's no reed warbler singing. And no kids would come here catching yabbies anymore. And the beautiful brown mud we used to squelch between our toes is black black and covered with a crust of salt. This was my home, but there's no point in coming here anymore. All of this is gone, and it's happened in my lifetime.
Right now, our entire irrigation areas are facing collapse. With them go 500,000 people, leaving behind a big, empty, devastated land. Where will these people go? To the cities? Where will our food come from? And it's not just the Murray, not just our irrigated land. This is happening in every state of Australia. We are pushing our land too far, through ignorance and greed. Technical solutions alone are not enough. What's needed is a change of attitude to this country. We have to accept Australia for what it is. It is a very special country, and it could last forever if we approach its development in the right way. We have been lucky. We have a high standard of living. But we are only well off because we are few. As our population grows, even greater pressure is put on our limited resources. If we could only accept that we have limited resources, we would use them more sympathetically. If we continue to exploit our land greedily, it will turn to salt and dust. I know we can act to stop this, but time is critically short.
This is the part of Australia I love the most. And when I'm out here, I find it very difficult to believe that our way of life is threatened. But I know that it is. I know that when things start to go wrong, the end can come terrifyingly quickly. And time is short, very short. And one story brings that home to me very strongly, and it's the story of the lily pond. Imagine a lily pond. Into the middle of that pond, we plant one lily leaf, and every day the lily leaf divides and doubles in size. We know that in 30 days, if the growth is unchecked, the lily pond will be choked and will die. The question is, on what day is the pond half full? And the answer is, on the 29th day. The end was just one day away. Australia is our lily pond, and we are in the evening of the 29th day.